So welcome to Buffluence, where we discuss craft beverage industry trends. And today we have with us Julia Herz, who is the Craft Beer Program Director at the Brewers Association. So thank you, Julia, for joining us. And currently this week, we're in the middle of American Craft Beer Week and obviously a pandemic. So in previous years, this has been a great event where there's special events at beer bars and restaurants and breweries. But this year we're locked down. So how has the American Craft Beer Week been revamped?
Yeah, definitely trying times for everyone, and health and wellness matters most. We have a really fragile but productive collection of small brewery businesses in this country, the independent craft brewers. And for American Craft Beer Week, May 11th to the 17th, we are asking everyone to hashtag #GiveCraftBeer to commit to give craft beer, and they can do that in numerous ways. Visiting breweries now, most of them are taking advantage, the ones that are able to reopen, of the expanded privilege to be able to do to-go sales or delivery or curbside pickup for craft beer. So beer lovers can absolutely engage and help lift up the breweries that use their craft beers as a cause for other causes. By this week, and frankly all year long, hashtag #GivingCraftBeer, and you can commit to give at AmericanCraftBeerWeek.com.
Yeah, and we definitely want to stress that even though officially it ends on the 17th, that this is a program process that will continue, and everyone is encouraged, even if your favorite brewery or any in your area aren't reopening soon, you know, there's still to-go services, delivery options. Gift cards definitely help. One thing I saw on one of your website is even just the sale of merchandise, you know, just to give some sort of cash flow into these businesses to keep them going through this crisis. So last year, Buffluence, we published a white paper on defining what is craft, and in it we used a lot of the Brewers Association's definition of a craft brewer, which you define as in the Brewers Association define as small, traditional, and independent. And so these three features actually make these establishments very vulnerable during the pandemic. So can you explain that a little bit to us?
So what is and isn't craft is different to everyone, right? It's actually a little squishy, but the small breweries in the U.S. evolved the beverage of beer and brought it from that microbrewing brew pub level to the broader notion of craft brewery. And really, it's all about supporting those businesses that define themselves. Of the 8,300 plus breweries in the United States that we had in 2019, more than 90% of them are small and independent craft brewers. It means they brew smaller production, less than 6 million barrels of beer a year, and that they're independently owned. One way to kind of see who is and isn't craft, you see the bottle, the upside down bottle right behind me. That's the Independent Craft Brewer Seal. More than 5,000 craft brewing companies since that launched in 2017 have signed up to engage and use their certification mark to indicate that they are certified craft. And also at craftbeer.com, we have a what is craft search engine, and you can figure out who is and isn't craft. And I think it's important for the beer lover to pay attention to what they buy, and often, it doesn't have to be across the board, but often remember to support the small and independent businesses as well.
Yeah, and we really need to look at the smallness of these. I do remember seeing a statistic from either the Brewers Association or might have been something from craftbeer.com, but 75% of the breweries in this country make less than 1,000 barrels a year.
You are correct.
Which is very small. And I think the medium, which basically puts half on either side, would make just 400 barrels a year. And so these breweries, they rely solely from the tasting room sales. You know, a lot of these don't have the distribution networks that, you know, you can just pop into your local beer store and buy their beer. So that's why these curbside pickups are crucial to the survival of these really small breweries. And just going back to the independent part of your definition, you don't want to degrade the success of a brewery that's been purchased by a larger corporation. That's a sign of success, and but that also gives them different avenues of distribution and revenue, sort of to tide them over difficult times like this. And so it's definitely important, like you said, put some of your, whatever your beer money, revenue, sales money you can purchase with, you support your local brewery.
Yeah, who then in turn support back their local communities and the country overall. Craft breweries are bright spots for tourism. Charitable dollars are exponential, tens of millions donated, and they really do give a great data point on how they are part of our economic engine as a country. So ensuring these small brewery businesses keep going is important. Also, let's talk the sensory side, right? Because the beverage of beer is a fantastic, rewarding beverage. I co-authored a book on beer pairing, have a lot of resources through craftbeer.com on how to enjoy the beverage of beer. And what these craft breweries provide is a point of connection directly from the producer to the beer lover, or if you buy it from a retailer, you can still look up the information on their brands and get to know who's behind those beers. And this is similar to thinking about, Trappist ales and their designation, right? Or certified organic or fair trade coffee, or Energy Star rating when we, go to buy appliances. The definition behind a craft brewer of small and independent really does matter to many. And if it matters to you, you can certainly support these brewery businesses in a way that can help to keep their doors open, so then they can continue to remain an instrumental part of not just their backyard communities and the fabric of this country in an economic standpoint, but also on the sensory side and remaining a part of the, the gastronomic and food arts world as well.
And just to talk about community, I mean, these are places that people just like to go and hang out. And I live in Vienna, Virginia. We got a brewery right down in our little market, downtown. I mean, it's just a great place to walk, and hang out there. And that it definitely brings communities together.
Yeah, community, connection, and what's in the glass are what craft brewers bring to the table. And we want to continue to see that happen. That's what it's all about.
Yes. So sadly, we need to look long-term as well. And so I don't know if we can see it, but I subscribe to the New Brewer magazine, which is the quarterly journal from the Brewers Association.
Yes.
And every issue, I immediately go to there's an openings and closings list that I use to update the brewery data that I have at winecompass.com. And we also have a mobile app for Craft Beverage Finder. And in normal times, the beer industry undergoes a normal creative destruction, where at any point in time, you'll have a certain number of breweries opening and a certain number is closing permanently based on either local conditions or individual decisions. Unfortunately, I see those numbers getting closer together, or maybe even flipping. Has the Brewers Association done any research going forward of what you predict is going to happen?
Sure, and a couple of interesting data points to kind of set the stage for that relevant question. One, in 2019, we saw almost 1,000 breweries open, and only several hundred close. So you've got a very strong opening to closing rate with 300 plus breweries, closing, and the number keeps ticking up. We also had in 2019 more than 2,000 breweries in planning. And believe it or not, even during these times, we're still seeing breweries in planning that are still opening in some form. And they, frankly, have a bit of a competitive advantage because they can now open their doors with this environment, the COVID environment and the pandemic in mind, which may allow them right out of the gates to evolve their footprint for their tap room or brew pub, and really come to the table thinking about how draft at on-premise is now, a real big battle, and how should their packaging mix be to ensure the most sales. So I think that sets the stage for some of your question. And here going forward, it's not an easy thing to predict right now, right? The data seems to change weekly. We did publish the second result from our impact survey to more than 500 breweries that responded on April 7th. That seems like years ago at this point because every week it's different. But when we reported those numbers, 46% basically said they did not see themselves making it past 1 to 3 months. That is a very startling, sobering percentage and statistic. Now, that said, we can't tell yet how many of the breweries are in fact going to not reopen. We're certainly tracking closings that we're being told about, but it's not happening at an across-the-board trend rate yet. But every week and month that each individual state chooses to wait to reopen for their own individual reasons is another week or month that a brewery might not be able to do more than just what they're allowed to do now. So the prediction game's tough. I'll give it to you in the easy soundbite. We're definitely going to see more brewery closings than any other year that we've seen since we've been tracking, A. And B, the craft brewing community will not be the same because of this pandemic. But what we're hoping to see is continued routes and access to market that maybe weren't available in a broad way before, so we can continue to help them. Plus, we want to see, tax relief and federal excise tax that the craft brewers do pay at an exponential rate. That expires at the end of this year, the relief of going from $7 a barrel to $3.50 a barrel. And so we want to see breweries under 60,000 get that extended permanently. And we've got a lot in play that if we had that come to fruition, we could predict more easily how many breweries would actually be able to stay open.
Yeah, and then I think the excise tax issue will be another episode that we discuss. But that's an interesting point I never thought about, was how the new breweries opening now or had just opened do have somewhat of an advantage, that they know what the environment, they can plan for the environment right now. And
Yeah.
also just goes to show this whole is just the margins that breweries, they operate on. I don't know the exact data for their margins, profit margins, but it's not significant. If they're looking at their cash reserves, will only keep them afloat for 1 to 2, 3 months. That's not a very good trend.
Yeah, and the margins are better when you sell direct from your tap room or brew pub to the customer. So that's what's truly being cut. And then it's the double whammy of those customers not really enforce any longer inside your establishment, plus draft beer sales, which is responsible 40 to 50% of all independent craft is draft sales. And so that is dried up and certainly halted it on premise. So it's this double whammy of things going on. But again, back to innovation, we are seeing so many pivots, and we continue to see great creativity. There's a beer out there being brewed, All Together beer, where hundreds of breweries from all around the world, frankly, are brewing it during the pandemic to show that there's still be in the brew house. And they're releasing that as of a few weeks ago through American Craft Beer Week. And just getting a taste of a limited release pale ale like that is something super special. So breweries are doing many, many things. There's also a lot of breweries working with beer clubs now. The concept of either wine futures, everybody's familiar with, signing up before you even know what it tastes like. So getting a subscription service for a brewery and their beers is more and more common now during these times. And or you could join a Zoom call and taste it with the brewer when you get your delivery once a month. So we're seeing more breweries engage in subscription services and that type of outreach as well, with the personal connection and also ability to talk to the actual person behind those beers.
Yeah, those are good programs, and brewers, they have some ingenuity, so I'm not surprised. So we like to close with knowing that some states and localities are reopening, and I've noticed that you've provided a checklist for reopening for breweries from your website. And that's actually available both to the breweries and the consumers, because you also need to build the consumer trust that they can safely go to these establishments and they'll have a healthy environment. So can you just discuss the checklist for us?
Sure, and I don't know if I'm allowed to share screen. I could certainly do that and show you guys it while I am engaged in overviewing it. And what we have is a robust list of resources that just even in this mix is first iteration and still getting updated today. But the numerous amount of items that beverage and hospitality professionals now have to engage in to open their doors is essential and exponential. The list of first steps, how to talk to your staff, what to do about personal sanitation, and getting your staff to be confident because they're your best ambassadors is really key. And then that will give your customers more confidence to come to your establishment. Standard operating procedures for how you're handling things is key to document. And we certainly feel that marketing is the biggest, most important factor. You can do all of this behind the scenes, right? But you won't get the world to know about it unless you're sharing with your customers that are either walking by your establishment, ordering online through your website, or coming in physically to understand what you've done to be COVID cautious and to keep them in a more safe environment, even though safety absolutely for any establishment cannot be guaranteed.
Yeah, this looks like a robust list. So there's definitely been a lot of thought to this. And I think consumers should be gratified to know. The one thing I see that you just wonder, I hope there's enough hand sanitizer out there for everybody. And I know the breweries and distilleries have been doing their part trying to get that out there.
Yeah, many hundreds, if not thousands, of breweries have now pivoted, just like distillers, to actually engage in brewing or distilling sanitizer from their beer wash. And so that is something that they have, I think, helped get attention behind, is that brewers can pivot to make other products that also help. And many of them have actually either sold it with profits going towards frontline workers and healthcare professionals, or donated those sanitizer that they've packaged to those frontline workers and professionals to help keep them safe as well.
Yeah, that is I've been following that and we've written on our blog quite a bit about that. So that's a great service that they're providing. So that's it for us. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to your followers and readers. Keep each other safe. Beer's an amazing beverage. It's not just the business side, it's about the sensory side, the rewarding factor of what 160 plus beer styles that we at the Brewers Association document, and the majority of those are being made by American independent craft brewers, is just such a great place and time to be a beer lover. Because we've got more variety available and more knowledge behind the beverage than ever before. So enjoy your craft beers, hashtag give craft beer all year long, and seek the independent craft brewer seal, that upside down bottle behind me, and do all you can to support your independent brewery businesses.
Yes, well, great. Well, thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely, we encourage people, if you're healthy, go out and, when these tap rooms open and visit or do the curbside pickup. And if you're ill or caring to it for an at-risk individual, there's gift cards and other ways. So we'll have on our show notes, we'll have all the links to both craftbeer.com and the Brewers Association. So thank you very much, Julia.
Great. Thank you right back. Good beers to you all, and stay healthy.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Take care.